It was not only the world's most powerful—
Wait, didn't I already do this? Or more precisely, didn't Apple already do this? I'm pretty sure they did. Hey everybody, Sage here, and welcome back to another computer showcase. Today we're going to look at the Power Macintosh G3, more specifically, the blue and white version. Now this has been one of my most wanted computers for a long time, and thanks to Lavavex I was able to acquire one from him during my visit at the Vintage Computer Festival Midwest. So, thanks Lavavex! So without any delay, let's take a look at the blue and white G3. But first, a little background. The year was 1997. Apple was a struggling computer company on the verge of bankruptcy. The company had been suffering financially over the past few years, in part due to poor sales and business decisions, among other problems. Under the then leadership of Gil Amelio, Apple took a risky move buying Next, a computer company run by Apple co-founder Steve Jobs, in February of 1997. This brought Jobs back to the company as a consultant, but due to the continuing losses, the board forced out Amelio, and Jobs took back control of Apple as interim CEO. It was now up to him, the co-founder of his own company, to get them back on track. One of the major restructuring efforts done by Jobs was a new product strategy, by killing off the confusing product lines and reduced them to a simple 4-product matrix, consisting of 2 desktops and 2 portables, each one aimed at consumers and pros. The Pro desktop product was the Power Mac G3, first introduced on November 10, 1997. The G3 originally came in 2 models, a desktop and a mini tower, with configurations ranging from 233 to 333 MHz. There was also an all-in-one model released later, exclusively to the education market. But the less said about it, the better. Remnants of Apple's past were still there with these systems, such as the design being rather similar to its predecessors, as well as using the proprietary Apple ports, such as ADB, SCSI, and DA15. Despite this, the Power Mac G3 became one of Apple's first successful products under Jobs' leadership, selling over 1.6 million units across all models, and was also one of the first Apple products to be sold build-to-order through their online store, allowing customers to configure the system however they wanted. The system also brought in some new technologies of the time, such as FireWire, introduced later as a build-to-order option in the form of a PCI card. But things would take a major turn in 1998, when Apple released the iMac, an all-in-one consumer desktop product with a design unlike any other computer at the time. It also deprecated Apple's legacy ports, embracing new technologies, such as USB. Despite some skepticism and controversy, the iMac would become a critical and financial success, selling around 800,000 units within the first 5 months. With this, Apple began introducing new products with gorgeous-looking designs, and the first Mac to get this update was the Power Mac G3, which up to that point was Apple's last remaining beige computer. For the next generation, they got rid of the desktop model and redesigned the mini tower from the ground up, taking inspiration from the iMac's design language. And on January 5, 1999, Apple unveiled the second-generation blue and white Power Mac G3 at the Macworld Expo in San Francisco. However, the system wouldn't last too long on the market, as it was quickly replaced by the Power Mac G4, introduced almost 8 months later, thus ending the short life of the blue and white G3. Yes, even shorter than the entire Macintosh Centris line by about 2 weeks. So let's take a look at the design of the machine. As stated earlier, the blue and white G3, codenamed Yosemite, introduced an all-new design, sharing the iMac's blue and white color scheme, or ICE as the press release calls it. The enclosure is primarily made out of translucent polycarbonate plastic, which, as Steve Jobs once said, quote,
"is the same stuff they use to make bulletproof vests out of."
The new design also brought in some new features, such as handles so the user could pick it up easily, and most notably, a folding door, which swings down onto the desk for instant tool-free access to the internals.
We just open this thing here, and there it is.
The door also has a lock latch on the back of the unit, to prevent the user from opening it. On the front of the system is the optical drive, space for an optional Zip 100 drive, the mono speaker, the power button, the reset button, and the programmer switch or interrupt button. On the left side is nothing spectacular, aside from the Apple logo and the G3 lettering embedded onto the metal beneath the plastic, while on the right side, you've got the latch for the door. On the back are 2 FireWire 400 ports, the first Mac to include built-in FireWire, an ADB or Apple Desktop Bus port, the last new Mac to offer one, 10100 Ethernet, 2 USB 1.1, line in for microphone and other instruments, line out for headphones and speakers, an optional 56K modem, and 2 AC power connectors, one for the computer and one for the monitor. Below the power supply is the serial number label, which also shows the manufacturing date as well as the original configuration specs. This particular unit was manufactured on March 27, 1999, and looks to be a low-end model, as it was originally configured with a 300 MHz processor, 512 kilobytes of cache, 64 megabytes of RAM, a 6 GB hard disk, and a CD-ROM drive. Out of those specs, none of them are retained in this unit, as all of them have since been upgraded. Below that are the 4 expansion slots, the top one for graphics, which uses an industry-standard VGA connector, rather than the proprietary DA-15 that Apple used for more than a decade. Finally, there is a lockdown security slot, below the expansion slots.
So now let's take a look at the insides. As mentioned before, to access the internals, you simply pull this latch, and the door hinges down, just like that. To start things off, we have the metal cage for the optical drive and the optional zip drive, and just like with the earlier Power Macintosh models, they are relatively easy to swap out. You simply press on these 2 tabs, which removes the front bezels, then you take out 2 screws from the front, disconnect some cables, and then the drive cage just slides right out. Right next to that, we've got the power supply, which is rated at 200 watts. Below the drive cage, we've got the blue plastic enclosure holding the speaker. And below that, we've got a metal enclosure holding the front panel circuitry. And then below the main power supply, we've got the main CPU fan here, which cools the system down. And below that, we've got a Quantum Fireball EX IDE hard drive, which was standard in these G3 systems. And then we have 2 extra bays for hard drive expansion. So now we come to the motherboard. First off, we've got the infamous 3.6 volt half-size AA battery, which is used to store settings in the PMU, or Power Management Unit. Now, originally when I got this unit, it had a Mac Cell battery in it. Yep, the same one that murdered one of the Mac Classic Logic boards. So obviously, I had to take that out and replace it with a good battery. But just for funsies, I did keep the original battery, just for display purposes. I am not putting this in another machine. So, Ron and Steve, if you're watching this video, resist the Mac Cell. Resist it. Ah! Right next to that, we've got the PCI slots. The top one is a PCI 66 for graphics, and the bottom 3 are regular PCI 33 for expansion. One of the cards I have installed in this computer is an Ultra 2 SCSI card, which wasn't uncommon in some configurations of the G3 Blue and White, considering the fact that this computer lacks onboard SCSI. So if you wanted to use SCSI hard drives with this computer, you had to use one of these cards. Moving on, we've got the optional internal modem, which for some reason is floating. It also has kind of a weird connection going from here to here on the motherboard. Below that, we've got the module for the FireWire ports here, which, because it is a module, can be removed and the system will still function fine. It wasn't until the Sawtooth G4s that the FireWire ports were soldered to the board, but it also brought in a feature that I forgot to mention in my G4 episode, Target Disk Mode, which the Blue and White G3 does not have. Then we've got the PowerPC G3 CPU itself on a ZIF, or Zero Insertion Force, processor socket, which means it is easily removable. All you just have to do is remove the heatsink, flip this little lever, and the processor just comes out. So you can swap CPUs or upgrade CPUs if you want. However, it's not that simple, and it all comes down to this processor module jumper here, which also serves as the speed control. Basically, for different configurations of the G3, there would be a different color-coded jumper. For example, if you wanted to upgrade the CPU, you would also have to change the jumper to match that processor speed. And it's not as simple as you think, because if you don't have one of those blocks, you'd be forced to buy some smaller jumpers, which then you would have to rearrange to match the processor speed. Otherwise, you would risk damaging the hardware as a result. Now, thankfully, processor upgrades were made easier on the Sawtooth G4. However, you still had to deal with that proprietary connector. Now, it is technically possible to upgrade this computer to a G4. However, you'll need to use some third-party firmware to accomplish that. And finally, we come to the 4 memory slots, all of which are currently occupied. Now, before I do continue, it's probably worth mentioning that this design of motherboard in the Blue and White G3 would later be used in the first models of the Power Mac G4, specifically the PCI graphics models. The only main difference was that it lacked an ADB port.
So now let's talk about the specs of this computer. The blue and white G3, much like the beige models, used a third-generation PowerPC processor, also known as the 750 series, created by the AIM Alliance, consisting of Apple, IBM, and Motorola, the latter two being the manufacturers. The processor speeds ranged from 300 to 450 MHz with either 512 kilobytes or 1 MB of level 2 cache, along with a 100 MHz system bus. Because of this, the blue and white G3 supported PC100 desktop memory, with support of up to 1 GB. In terms of storage, the blue and white G3 supported Ultra ATA 33 hard drives through an onboard IDE controller, with native support of up to 128 GB. Speaking of which, the early revisions of the G3s could only support one hard drive at a time, due to issues with the original controller that made using 2 hard drives with it impossible. It also had trouble with newer ATA hard drives, resulting in data transmission errors. Workarounds to this include using either an Ultra ATA PCI controller card or, as mentioned earlier, SCSI hard drives, with the inclusion of an Ultra 2 SCSI PCI card, which was offered as a build-to-order option. Eventually, though, Apple fixed the issue with revised models of the G3, which used an improved IDE controller, allowing for proper support of 2 ATA hard drives. In terms of graphics, the blue and white G3 included an ATI Rage 128GL PCI graphics card with 16 MB of video memory and a maximum supported resolution of 1600 by 1200 through the VGA connector. In terms of removable media, the blue and white G3 used an IDE optical drive, either configured with a CD-ROM, a DVD-ROM with a DVD decoder card, or a DVD-RAM, the latter being a build-to-order option. As mentioned earlier, a Zip 100 drive was also available as an option. And with all of those parts combined, the blue and white G3 only weighed around 30 pounds, or 13.6 kilograms, the same amount of weight as its successor, the G4. The blue and white G3 was also notable for being the first Power Mac to use a New World ROM, first introduced with the iMac. So now let's talk about configurations. The blue and white G3 originally came in 4 models. The first model, priced at $1,600, came with a 300 MHz processor, 64 MB of RAM, a 6 GB hard disk, and a CD-ROM drive. The second model, priced at $2,000, increased the processor speed to 350 MHz and upgraded the optical drive to a DVD-ROM. The third model, priced at $2,500, doubled the memory to 128 MB, upgraded the hard disk to 12 GB, and offered a zip drive as standard. The optical drive, however, was reverted back to a CD-ROM. The fourth and final model, priced at $3,000, upped the processor speed to 400 MHz and upgraded the hard disk to an Ultra 2 SCSI, while also downgrading the storage to 9 GB, as well as removing the zip drive. There were also server configurations, with prices going as high as $5,000 US, but that's a whole other subject for a future retrospective. On June 1st, 1999, the blue and white G3 received a speed boost, increasing the clock speeds for all models by 50 MHz, while keeping the prices exactly the same.
Now, before I do get to the software demonstration, I do have a bit of a story to tell about this particular system. This was one of the many Mac computers I had used as a kid. It had plenty of children's software on it, and I used it quite frequently alongside the purple iMac G3 and the eMacs. The model we had used a 350 MHz processor, and I recall it having a zip drive on the front. It also had some expansion cards, including a video capture card, which we never used. For a long time, it was in great condition. Until something unfortunate happened in 2010, while we were moving to a new house. One of the guys who was taking the system out from one of the shipping vans accidentally dropped it, therefore one of the supporting legs broke, and it was left like this for years. The system still worked perfectly fine, however. It was just that one part that was broken. But unfortunately, that, along with lack of storage space at the time, was more than enough for my dad to decide he wanted it scrapped. So in 2015, we proceeded to scrap the machine. Now, I did keep some parts, such as the CPU, the RAM, expansion cards, and of course, the hard disk. The rest of it, however, went to the dumpster, and looking back at it, I regret doing that big time. #RetroRegrets. So for the next 7 years, I was left without one of these beauties. Now granted, the Power Mac G4 is the superior machine, and thankfully I did keep that for many years. However, with hindsight and knowledge, I wanted to have a blue and white G3 in my collection once again. Well, as luck would have it, a computer clan viewer by the name of Lavavex offered to sell his blue and white G3 to me at the Vintage Computer Festival Midwest in Elmhurst, Illinois. Which, by the way, if you haven't been there, I would highly recommend attending the event. There was a lot of great people I met there, and I also learned some new things along the way. So anyways, we met in person, I was still interested in the machine, took a good look at it, and soon after, made the transaction. I ended up getting a pretty good deal, especially for something like this. And after VCF Midwest was all said and done, I took it back home, fixed it up, and now it works perfectly. So after 7 long years, I finally have a blue and white G3 in my personal collection, and I will never, ever scrap another one again. Sure, it may not be the same unit I had as a kid, but it still brings back a bunch of memories from my childhood. Besides that, however, there was another reason for getting a blue and white G3, and it had to do with software support. The blue and white G3 originally came with macOS 8.5.1 out of the box, with macOS 8.6 available in later revisions. Sure, it can run macOS 9 fine, and so will its maximum supported operating system, macOS 10 Tiger. However, that's not the most important part. The Power Mac G3 was the first computer to be demonstrated with the then new macOS 10 server, which was not only Apple's first modern server product, but also Apple's first software product to carry the macOS 10 name, 2 years prior to its official release. Not only that, it, along with the beige G3s, were the only systems that can run the first macOS 10 developer preview, along with the later 3, which did add support for the Power Mac G4, but that's a topic for another video. Okay, so I got the G3 all set up here with a matching keyboard. Okay, maybe not matching keyboard, it's the same one from my G4. But I do have a matching mouse with it, the infamous hockey puck mouse in the same color as the G3 system. Unfortunately, I don't have a matching monitor for this, so this Sony Trinitron will have to do. But other than that, we should be ready to go. So I'm going to go ahead and turn on the monitor. And then I'm going to turn on the computer by pressing the power button on the keyboard. There's the startup chime, and we should get a picture on the screen soon. There it is. We got the gray screen right there, and it should take us into... Yep, there we go. There's the cursor, and there's the, well, the Happy Mac should show up. There it is. And we're booting into macOS 9.2. Now, this does take a while to boot. I mean, the hard drive is like more than 2 decades old, but should still function. I mean, the G4 hard drive still functions fine, so all's good, I guess. We got the extensions loading at the bottom here. And here we are at the desktop. All right, so I got the camera readjusted. So let's take a look at the version of macOS we're running, version 9.2.2. And we have 512 megabytes of RAM, which is about half of the maximum amount of RAM that is supported on this machine. So let's take a look at the full specs here in Apple System Profiler. And we got plenty of stuff to look at here. For example, we have the PowerPC G3, which is running at 300 megahertz. Now, I did upgrade the system to a 350 megahertz. However, it's stuck at 300 because of that processor jumper module I mentioned earlier. So let's take a look at the memory here. And we've got 512 megabytes of RAM, and all 4 DIMM slots are 128 megabytes. So there you go. And we have the backside level 2 cache of 1 megabyte, which I believe is present only on the 350 megahertz and higher G3 processors. So let's take a look at devices and volumes here. Let's look at the DVD-ROM drive that we have installed in this computer. And it is an Hitachi. It's not a Matsushita. Here's the hard drive. It is a Quantum Fireball EX, as to be expected. Capacity 12 gigabytes, so this is the highest configuration G3 hard drive, for an ATA configuration, of course. Here's the display card. ATI Rage 128, 16 megabytes of video RAM. So that's pretty much it for the system profiler, so let me close out of that. So let's take a look at the contents on this drive. We've got plenty to look at. So we've got a bunch of children's software on the system. Now, before I started shooting, I did have to modify the contents on the drive. Well, not all of it. I just removed some personal data because there was plenty of personal data on there that I had to remove. Now, don't worry, all the personal data that was on this drive was from my family members. So here's the applications. We got plenty of applications to choose from. Here's the DVD player, although I don't have the DVD decoder card, so obviously I don't think I can use this. Here's Apple Extras, plenty of extras to see here. Internet Explorer 5, that was a thing. Netscape Communicator, that was an option if you didn't like Internet Explorer or Microsoft in general back in the day. And then we got, of course, Jumpstart Animals Field Trip and Jumpstart Art for Fun in this folder for whatever reason. We also got Acrobat Reader 4 for some reason. I'm pretty sure this came off of a CD-ROM for PDF viewing. We also have the installer for Acrobat Reader for some reason. and the installer for the installer for Acrobat Reader, I think. And then we got some other folders. Man, this is already giving me childhood memories. We got Animals, Jumpstart Animal Adventures. I'm pretty sure this requires the CD-ROM, so I'm not even going to bother. Knowledge Adventure folder. We got Jumpstart Kindergarten 2001, which I believe is the 1998 version re-released, so it's not actually 2001. We also got some other stuff here, like the Disney Interactive folder. We got Magic Artist 3D, which I remember playing that, and Studio back in the day. And, ooh, Stanley Tiger Tales. Remember Stanley, anybody? Not the flat Stanley books, but the Disney show. I think I have a tape of that, a recorded VHS tape of that. But anyways, moving on, we've got some other stuff. We got Jumpstart First Grade HD, Jumpstart Music. I remember that as a child. We got HE Games. HE stood for Humongous Entertainment. We got Blues Reading Time and Blues Birthday. I remember playing those games. And then we got Infogrames or Infogrames Interactive. Tomato, tomato. We've got Soccer 2004. There's nothing in that folder, obviously. We got Jumpstart Arts and Crafts. Probably requires the CD-ROM, so not going to bother. Jumpstart Baby. Oh. That teddy bear, man. Now, this was back in the day when, before backgrounds were a thing, you actually had to create characters out of multiple icons. You don't have to do that nowadays because backgrounds exist. But back then, this was an interesting method to create characters. It wasn't the best. As you can see, it's quite glitchy at the bottom. But yeah, it was a thing. And then we have Mac OS Photos. Ooh, I wonder what's in there. Got Applications and System folder. Load applications up, and yeah, it's just a applications icon. And System folder, also the same thing, System folder icon. So now let's take a look at some of the software that I remember using as a child, starting with the Amazing Writing Machine. I remember using this a little bit as a kid. It's an old product from 1995, some of you may remember it. Look at that splash. So we can choose between essay, letter, story, poem, and journal. So we'll write an essay here, and this is where, of course, you would write it. You'll notice that the interface looks pretty similar to KidPix, and, well, that's because it's made by the same developers, Bruderbund, but we'll take a look at that later. So we could just write, you know, my savvy essay or something like that. It also has plenty of typewriter effects, which is pretty cool. Let's go back here. Project Picker. No, I don't want to save. Let's do letter. We've got March 21st, 2009. It's not March 21st. What are you talking about? Here's your own letter. Yeah, nothing really spectacular to look at, so I guess you could print it. That was probably the whole point of it. Let's do story. So this is where you write your story. Like, for example, My Savvy Story. Hey, look, an alliteration. By yours truly. And then we just move to the next page, and we got a bunch of pictures you can draw. Like, for example, I can just draw whatever this is. What about... yeah. Let's go back to the Project Picker. Even has the same sound effects as KidPix. So here's poem. Kind of the same thing. And journal. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and enter my journal name here. Here's my name, and then I'm going to type in my password. And then, are you a new user? Yes. And then, of course, there's the date, October 5th, 2022. That's when I'm recording this video. And you can draw pictures on it or whatever. I guess this is where you put your journal, diary stuff, I guess. And once you're done with it, just close it up and you're back to the start. So yeah, if you like journals, you'll like this best. So that's the Amazing Writing Machine. Another game I remember playing as a kid is Hoyle Card Games, version 5 to be specific. So let's take a look at that. It even has a PDF document, which probably explains why you need Acrobat Reader for this. So let's open it up. And here it is. Play Hoyle Card Games. But do I want to play the demo of Hoyle games? No, let's just play the card game demo. So we'll fire that up, and, oh yeah, we gotta get a new player in. So let's just get our new player in. Boom. Welcome to Hoyle Card Games. Oh, I forgot. This had a setup wizard in it. All right, so I could choose different people, I guess. Some of these are kind of weird. You know what? I'm gonna go use this guy. He looks anonymous. We can also use Face Maker if we want. So we can create our own faces or whatever. Take that, metaverse. But we're not going to do that, so we're just going to exit out of that. We're just going to play. So we've got plenty of card games to choose from, ranging from the classic Solitaire to games like Crazy Eights and Go Fish. I think I remember playing those two the most alongside, I think, Old Maid. I never really got into Solitaire as a kid, but nowadays I really love it. I'm actually kind of addicted to it. I play it on my phone a lot. Thanks, Microsoft. Anyways, so we've got plenty of Hoyle card games to choose from. Let's play Go Fish. So we got plenty of random players. Now, there are some voices in the game, but you need to have the CD-ROM put in there. We can also change the players if we want. So let's go ahead and play some Go Fish. It's been a long time since I've played this. Hey, look, we got the fish screensaver going on in the background. Okay, so it's my turn. I'm going to ask for aces from Harley. Go Fish. That sounds like an insult when you really think about it. Go Fish. Go Fish. This was my jam, man. Let's see if Marvin has any kings. No, he does not. Oh, yeah, you got this little crustacean, I believe, saying, Go Fish! I'm gonna fish for... Hey, stop! There you go. Oh, someone has a 6. Yeah, Go Fish. Oh, yep, take my kings. Uh-oh. Oh my gosh, if he asks for 6s, I swear. Oh, that dinosaur just ate some cotton candy. Okay, it's my turn. Haha! Take that, bear! Well, you get the idea. So that's just a little bit of Go Fish. There's plenty more games on this that I could probably demo, but we don't have time for that. So... yep, there it is, Sierra, and the rest of the Hoyle franchise that I never got a chance to play a lot back then. Another piece of software I remember using is KidPix, more specifically KidPix Studio Deluxe. If we go inside, it's actually a folder consisting of KidPix Studio Deluxe and the original KidPix Studio. Oh, and by the way, there's also a folder called KPS Creations. While I was browsing through the file system on this hard drive, I came across plenty of KidPix files, like over 120 of them, and they were scattered across the entire file system. There were some in the applications folder. It was so strange. There's also a KidPix file by the name of Metro Goldwyn Mayer. That ought to be interesting. But anyways, let's fire up KidPix Studio. Alright, so here we are in the menu screen. We've got plenty of stuff to choose from here. We've got, of course, KidPix, Moopies, Stampinator, or is it Stampimator? Yeah, Digital Puppets, which I barely used, Slideshow, and Wacky Television, with apparently an animation of a chicken shaking its booty for whatever reason. But anyways, let's go right into KidPix.
Paint a picture.
There we go. So here we are in the KidPix interface. So let's paint some stuff. These are some of the brush effects that I used to mess around with a lot back then. Ooh, that's scary. Let's see what else we got. We got some dice. There's shapes, clubs, tic-tac-toe letters, I think, and a bunch of stars. You get the idea. Let's take a look at the stamps. We've got some stamps here. We got a PC or terminal, whatever that is. We've got a clown. Got Tux D Penguin. I thought I saw a picture of a Macintosh. There it is. Yeah, a picture of a Mac. And so on and so forth. So you get the idea. Now, apparently there's a bug in this where, because both Deluxe and the original Studio are installed on the same system, it automatically redirects to the KidPix Studio Deluxe picker for some reason. So if we close out of that and try going back to the picker, it'll take us right into Studio Deluxe like this. Now, the audio quality in this is much higher compared to the previous one. Plus, we now have a red background instead of a blue background. So let's go into Moopies.
Use the wacky brush to make a moving picture.
And you can definitely tell that sounds way higher quality. This, I also remember using a lot as a kid. Like, for example, this here, bunch of animation. Yeah, this was the cool stuff, man. This was what we had as kids. Got some bones here. I've got some bones to pick with you. Anyways, you get the idea. Let's go back to the picker, and let's look at Stampin' Mater.
Drag stamps across the screen, and they'll keep moving.
If you say so. So anyways, we got a squirrel, so we'll just move it a little bit. And there we go. We got a walking squirrel. Let's try... Oh, I have to do this at the bottom. Yeah, it's been a while since I've used these. Let's do a dog. And the dog wins. Go here. We got the elephant. Let's do a slow-moving elephant. And there we go. So let's create one more, and let's do the one with the woman or whatever. Let's just make it rise up slowly. And, you know, the way her mouth is like, you know, opening wide, it's like, Whoa! Just like that. I just find it funny. But there you go, that's the Stamp-O-Mater. So now we come to the wacky television. Oh boy.
Choose a movie to watch.
So this is where we get into the very interesting drawings that are on this computer. Now obviously I'm not going to be able to show all of them, but I'll show as much as I can. So let's see, we've got angry, back view pig. Okay, I think some of the drawings are like birds or whatever. That definitely doesn't look like a bald eagle. Baltimore Oriole. I think they meant to say Baltimore Oriole, but that definitely doesn't look like a Baltimore Oriole. Man, there's a lot to go through with these. Bird. Let's look at that. Yeah, that definitely sounds like a bird, all right. Not. So, let's move on to the next one. There's a lot of these pictures to go. Cardinal. Ooh. That has a beat to it. And then it just abruptly ends. Moving on, we got clown, cowboy, cowgirl, crook. These all look like Mr. Men characters. I don't know why. We got fish. 20th century fish, to be exact. Nice fanfare, though. Moving on, Halloween. With black eyes, I guess? That's also not the right music for Halloween. And also, there's no Michael Myers in this, which means I'm not interested. Anyways, Evil Dies Tonight. Moving on, and now we're back to this kind of stuff here. These characters look like white feces for whatever reason. We've got a white turd kicking, a white turd kneeling while singing, what looks to be a thin potato laughing, and this abomination. Now, we'll take a look at the MGM one later, but for now, we've got the Mono CLE, I'm assuming that's spelled monocle. Person, again, he looks like a Mr. Men character. We got a pirate. Arrgh. Yeah, this is the stuff of nightmares, people. I mean, you got all these pretty heads and these Walmart smiley faces for whatever reason. I don't know what to say. Moving on. We're back to the white turds and stuff. We got running. Running pig. Looks like a winged thing. I don't know. So let's go back to that MGM one that we passed by earlier. Let's take a look at that and see what it looks like. Oh. Oh no. Oh, Dios mío. So that's what happened after MGM was bought out by Amazon. While we're at it, we might as well look at the wacky color effects. So let's take a look at that. We've got reverse. We've got, oh, that's going to cause seizures. We've got zoom, fast forward, that, some nice looking shapes, a screensaver, and what the MGM logo looks like when it's on electrolytic capacitor drugs. So let's go ahead and undo that. Let's get out of there before it creeps me out more. We should probably look at some of the other KidPix files while we're at it. So let's... Oh, there's my pics. We got a lot more than that on the drive, but obviously we won't have time for that. Let's see. We've got Fireball. Let's take a look at Fireball. Oh boy. That's a lot of fire, fire, fire. Sorry, force of habit. Anyways, let's go back to the picker. We've got some more stuff here. My Hictory of Henry Ford. And it's just a crappy drawing of a Model T. How about that? But you get the idea. That is Kid Pix. It was one of my favorites back in the day, and it still is, but the drawings, they didn't age well. So anyways, let's get out of that, and oh yeah, I forgot, I have the original Kid Pix open. So the last game that I want to show off, or actually the last games I want to show off, are these Revenge of the Spiders games, which I remember playing one of them as a kid, and in fact, I think I still have a copy of it today. So we've got Revenge of the Riddle Spiders, Math Spiders, and Logic Spiders. The latter two are demos, and the Riddle one is the full version. So let's play Riddle Spiders first. Fire it up here. So it's from a company called Critical Thinking that makes educational books and software. Now, of course, there's no students on the list, so I'm going to add myself to the list here. So click New, and there we go. So we can select from small, medium, or large maze size. I'm going to do large. We can also select a player image, male or female. Female looks identical, except with more hair. And we can also add some extra stuff to make the game more difficult. I'm going to max it out because, you know, this is level A, so let's get going. So this is what the maze looks like. There's a bunch of spiders, so we control the player with the mouse. And there's a spider already on the move. Wow. I actually got it on the first try without answering any questions. At least I got on the high scoreboard. You know what? Let's do it the right way. I didn't even hit a spider, but whatever. I move on the water, and I start with B. With sail or motor, you can go with me. What am I? A boat. Crap. I will lay an egg, and I eat corn from the ground. And with my sisters, I make a clucking sound. What am I? A synonym that rhymes with lock. There we go. Oh, and we just ran into a red spider. The color of a tree. I start with a G. And if you have a lawn, let's hope it's colored me. What is this? One of the Riddler's terrible schemes? Yeah, that sounds about right. All right. And we got a spider, actually two spiders blocking the entrance. We're a bunch of flakes whose name starts with S. Think of White Winters, and maybe you'll guess. Well, I think we already know the answer to that. Snow White and the Seven Dwarves. And we got the last one. My drops will fall onto slippery streets. I come from clouds in sprinkles or sheets. Is it snow again? No, and I failed. So I failed this time after basically winging it on the first try. But you get the idea. That's how Revenge of the Riddle Spiders works. So let's get out of that. And let's move on to the Math Spiders demo. This is level A, I believe. Got a much scarier tune there. So we only have medium maze and the male player image for the demo. So we can't choose female in this particular demo, but we can choose the difficulty. So we're going to max it out once again, and we're going to play the demo of Math Spiders. So here we go. And I just ran into a spider. If a month has 30 days, which of the following is 1/10 of a month? You know, I must admit, I have played this before I started recording this, so I have gotten this question before. Therefore, the answer is half a week. If you add 9 to me, I will become double 9. Is it 18? No, it's not. And, oh crap, we got a red spider. Wonderful. I'm gonna say this one. No. You know, that didn't seem fair. How long will it take for a 7-year-old to triple his or her age? 14. 30 years old in 1996. In what year will he turn 50 years old? So that's about 20 years, so 2026. No! I have gotten these questions before, so I should know the answers to these. Well, that answer is easy. 3. No! Man, I suck at this. Alright, this is it, folks. Alright, this is it. Yeah, baby! There we go, we actually got it right for once. Alright, so there I am on the high scoreboard. There you go. Let's get out of that. And finally, we've got Revenge of the Logic Spiders, the demo version. So obviously we're going to have just a medium maze and a male character to play. Same exact sound effects as the Riddle Spiders game. Okay. Alright. See if we can, yep, there we go. I'm thinking of a pair of whole numbers. Their sum is equal to or greater than 8. Their product is less than 20 and greater than 10. The difference between the larger number and the smaller number is 2. Alright, well, I think we already know the answer to that one. Yeah, there we go. And we got one more. Dear Doris, I have but one love in my life. I love no one more than you. The years we have spent together were the best years of my life. I love you, Doris, and the children love you. If I get this question wrong, I'm gonna lose. Am I? Yep. Yeah! There we go. We actually got it on the first try. And there I am on the high scoreboard. And yeah, that's all I'm gonna show because I don't want to go insane. So that was an interesting nostalgia trip. Man, it's been a long time since I've used this G3 and the hard drive that was in my older G3. But yeah, very glad to have this system once again. Now, I would like to show you more, but unfortunately we're out of time. So the only thing left to do is shut down the computer. It does take a while to shut down. There we go. So there you have it, the blue and white Power Mac G3. Overall, it's a pretty good machine, and remains an all-time favorite among Mac enthusiasts. I, for one, am glad to finally have one in my collection once again, especially with how scarce and expensive these things are becoming. So thanks once again to Lavavex for selling me this G3 here, and yes, I do have plans for this system in the future. As I mentioned earlier, I would like to try out the macOS 10 developer previews, minus the public beta, as well as the original macOS 10 server, so that ought to be interesting. And if you're up for some more Power Mac G3 goodness, be sure to check out my buddy Ken from Computer Clan and his video about it, where he also talks about the origins of Final Cut and the impact it has made in the digital video space. If you guys liked what I have to offer, be sure to leave a like, share, and subscribe for more videos like this. But for now, thanks very much for watching, and I will see you all next time. Take care.